Right, guys, good morning, good evening. Let's get this underway. What a day. Huge sell-off through New York AM. Just change to demonstration tool here so you guys can see my chart. Is the screen okay? You guys can see everything and hear me okay? Sweet. Ali, only traded in the morning. All you really need to do was trade in the morning, right? We had this, the 10 o'clock H4, open high, massive low close. But before I go into the high time frame stuff, we'll just quickly mark this one out. We've already got a manipulation here into Q1 for Asia. Did you guys get into longs here? So we have our zone here. And we can do our standard deviations of that. We'll do this again when we do our daily chart setup. But something to watch for the moment if you guys are watching the chart while I do my review. Welcome, Sis. Great to have you in here. Been really enjoying your charts and analysis. Been on fire this week. It's been great to watch. I feel like I don't need to post as much when you're popping your charts up. And so we're just going to mark out these levels quickly. We've got a 1.5 up here, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5 to watch. Finally got displacement out of the zone here just. And our BC here, which has been respected nicely. We come back up, we come down into 1830, back up 1900 for our open low, ideally high close. Up to SD1 would be nice, or 1.5. Hey Surma, welcome. Nice to have you in here as well. It's been great to see you getting into the standard deviation levels and the manipulation swings. Yes, I'm in the long. I'll just share a chart in a sec. Multiple screens going on here, but this is mine. I'll pop this in the chart. And SL already at break even after that last displacement. All right, that's so we covered that. We'll quickly jump into our high time frame now. So I'll try and be really quick today. We're going to run out of time. After tea, we're going to be overtime, and then we just had some Discord issues with the sound. So let's jump in. We'll start on our 6-hour chart paired with a monthly. Just get rid of our lower time frame quarters here. And we can adjust our monthly low now as that is still being made. We'll move that down to our current low. All right, so for those that are new here, what we've got here is we've broken the monthly down into quarters. And we're watching at the start of the month for a Q1 high or low. And we made a Q1 high up here at the start on the 3rd of November. And Q2 unable to take that high. So once we come down and we take the Q1 low, that then locks in this high. So we can stay bearish as we go. I was watching on the lower time frames. Once we'd come down to here to SD 4.5, even 3.5 we're looking at, to see if we would go into a market maker buy model and end the month bullish for these last 2 quarters. And we can see after the sell-off we've just had, that's being negated, and we've now taken another low. If we pop on our PO3 here, we can have a look at the monthly candle at the same time. And we'll just move this across a little bit. All right, so far for the month, we have our open high, and we are expanding down. Huge expansion in. So we have our manipulation up here in that Q1, which is what created the wick here. And now as we're coming down towards the end of the month, possibly we're going to find a low somewhere, and then we can look for a monthly bounce back up 20 to 30% for similar to what we do for our TGIF, but on the monthly scale. I was keen to see how New York was going to play out when I woke up this morning, to see if we were going to come up and flip this for support to then continue up. It's a huge sell-off. And the sell-off there, we can see rejected 50% of the previous month. That's why I've got that October 50% level there. So bearish while we stay under that. So we've come back up, retested, and sold off. And also respecting that CB that we've had in here, which was on the, sorry, this is on the 6 hour. I normally have this. Makes it a little bit cleaner. Do Bitcoin. We'll see how we go. We're going to run out of time pretty quick. The Bitcoin high come in like right on time though, Seno, with that higher time frame chart. All right, so 6 hour into monthly. We've already expanded down to the SD 4.5 from that manipulation up here. We can also do that manipulation for the start of the month, which was just testing 50% of this first manipulation swing. 1.5, 2.5, and we'll just come down to SD 4.5 from this manipulation swing. So interesting to see if we do find some footing here. And also back into this down close candle here, which caused that breakout. Underneath that, we have this swing to watch. Back from September. This was September's manipulation that caused this whole swing up. All right, 1 hour, guys. We're going to jump into the 1 hour paired with the weekly at the moment. And we'll change our main candle here to weekly. So we started off Monday. We've made our high. So we've got our high manipulation. We can draw that on as a zone. We then break the zone, come back in. We have our standard deviation pull on that zone. And so normally I have that to 4.5, but we extended down to 6 here. Cozy level there for 6. So as this is playing out, we're watching, is Monday going to stay as the high of the week? And we come down and make a pivot for Tuesday here. So at that point of time, we're trying to work out, is it a Tuesday low of the week? And will Monday get taken? We get a change in state of delivery here coming into Wednesday. Wednesday unable to break that Tuesday low. And our standard deviation pull from this swing. So have this drawn out as a zone until that gets broken, which is now broken. So that was respected here. We push up, we hit SD1. And remember, when we're in a trend, retracement against trend, we normally see SD1 to 1.5 into continuation. So we come up, we hit SD1. We've hit 50% of Monday's manipulation, plus NWOG, plus previous month 50% level, and big sell-off from there. So we had true day open here, manipulation above true day open into 10 o'clock and the sell-off. And then we can now use this swing from the low that made the high for this standard deviation pool, which is going straight down 1.5, 2.5 and 3.5 here. We have the SBS that we're also watching coming out of last week. So we had that break here, 1, 2, 3. Then we're looking for shorts above 2. We have 4, 5, and then down to 6, which we spoke about coming into last week as well. Nice SBS there, redistribution fractal. Did I find any chance to enter here? No, this is when I'm asleep. So this is around 1 a.m. my time when this happened. But I will show you possible ways to enter. All right, we'll keep moving on. Make this nice and quick. Got half an hour left. So we'll go into our daily review. We'll change this to the daily. And I'll just use our replay tool and we'll go back to end of day. We'll wipe this information and redo that in a minute. Yeah, entry on the 5 minute, no worries. We'll work through the whole day. So I'll just put our 90-minute cycle quarters on. Time and price I'm using. All right, so we started the day off, and the first thing we do on our chart is we put in our PDH and our PDL levels. We then do our OTE of the daily range, which I haven't got on at the moment because we were staying above PDH for most of the day that I was awake, but we'll pop that back on. And that needs to be reversed. And we do our fixed range volume profile POC from PDL to PDH. And that's what this is here. So we're looking for that main volume, fixed range volume profile POC point of control as a PD array for the day. We draw on our zones from the previous day. So this one made the low, and then the standard deviations from that zone. So we've got this one from the previous Asia session, and then this one from the PM session. So as we come into Asia, we're watching the levels here, which will come straight up into SD 2.5 at open. So for trading Asia, when we open like this, and we're just pushing up strongly, we've got our 20 SMA here. We're looking for that first pullback, and we can draw that on as a zone. We have a BISI in here as well. This is where in the chat, for people that were up at this time, we'd hit this candle and I jumped on the chart, and that's when I messaged the chat just saying looking for a way to get in, let me in. So I'd entered just straight on this zone retest, zone retest. And I was just targeting SD 1.5. So I had entry here, target SD 1.5, and stop was around here, which was invalidation once we start getting closes below 50% of that zone. This was also part of the 1900 candle. So the H1 candle, the idea was to open low and then high close. Another reason why I was happy to get in here at the zone during that first 15 minutes of the candle. All right, as we continue up, we then have a manipulation swing in here. So we talked about this in the chat as well. So this is what I call the tweezer lows. It's also a swing failure pattern here. We come down, sweep the lows, close back in the range, and we can watch 50% of that swing failure pattern candle. Had another one here too, right? Comes down, sweeps the lows, and then we attack high of the range. And we look for 50% of that to hold. Then we had this guy here, and then the bullish engulfing. So this becomes our tweezer low and our bullish OB plus OB. And so I'd move stop loss under here, and I was expecting 50% of this down close candle to hold for support. Invalidation, candle closes below here. And that became our continuation to the TP, SD 1.5. This is also nice to see here, right? We have that low resistance liquidity run, building liquidity up at all these highs. So when you see a slow grind like this, it's nice confluence to then get a push up and take all of those highs. All right, so yeah, so another swing failure pattern here, which we just talked about before. 50% of that holds, no body closes below, and we can attack that high if we were in any more positions from there. We then go into quarter one of London, and we get our change in state of delivery there. Been a lot of quarter one moves lately. And a lot of timing has been a bit off. Like we've seen a lot of New York AM sessions put in like 11 o'clock lows instead of those 9:30, 9:45 swings. So keeping an eye on the quarters and the times, especially been noticed since daylight savings. So we look at that quarter one. We get our break. We draw this on as a zone, the low that made the high. We draw our rectangle box on. And then once we get that break below, we're looking for price to come back up and enter. There's also an SBS in here. Just had to take some heat here. For me, I entered after this candle close, which was a little bit early, as I had to go out for a run. Part of the running group here on Thursday nights. And first target's SD 1.5. And we step our way down each 0.5 level of the standard deviations. Like so. So I do entry. Once we've had this swing, we don't hit SD 1.5, and then we do our OTE from here down to that swing. Just take off the magnet there. And then we're looking for, I need to rotate this. price to come back to the zone and those OTE areas here. We have a SIBI in here we could have marked out. Also nice entry here. And stop above the zone. So we come up, soup 7.9 into continuation. So I was in back over here, and as price displaced here to SD1, I moved stop loss to break even, and then was AFK for this part. Oh, nice. You still managed to get some out of it, sis. Good work. All right, so this H4 for 2 o'clock has done the open high, low, close into 6. And what we're trying to do, which is a little bit of the issue trying to get in during that Q1 of London, is we want to catch the manipulation of the 4 hour. So this becomes the wick of the 4 hour, and we want to be getting in to catch the body. So we want the main body of the 4 hour expansion. And that's where the SD levels come into place nicely, right? Back to SD 4.5, and then you get a rotation. So we come into Q4, and we then have a Q4 manipulation zone, which is finishing off that H4 swing. And this one I took to SD 1.5 before I went to bed. So we have our change in state delivery here, nice bullish engulfing, closes above the high that made the low. We then have down close candle, which locks in the BISI here, and entries off the BISI. Stop below. Target is SD 1.5. 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5. I like to take these all on separate accounts. So we hit ST 1.5, one account gets out, move stop losses to break even on other accounts. I do like to mostly take around 4 or 4.5, or if we are up there, just to move the stop loss right up so price can't hit SD4 and then come back. Just move all these over, make this a little bit nicer. All right, if we didn't manage to get an entry here, we can wait for this swing to come back, and then we mark out our OTE, and we're looking for PD arrays around the OTE area, which we had that BISI here, so then entry would be here. And what do we notice about that 5-minute candle? It's another swing failure pattern. So he comes down, sweeps the lows, closes back in the range, back above that previous close. Close back in here. We can then target that swing high and the range high. But for us, we're using the standard deviations of the manipulation. So it just becomes confluence for price to keep going up towards our first target. Next week, I'll work on doing a write-up on these candles, and I'll pop that in the mentorship as well. I'll just grab a drink, guys, and then I'll move into the next bit. Bear with me for a minute. All right. So we then have price coming back up into quarter two. 8 o'clock macro. This is creating that 8 o'clock wick for continuation up to our next standard deviation levels. $9.30 swing. Push up. We hit SD3, SD4, and SD 4.5 from our main swing that we had from the previous day. SD 4.5 finishing this whole standard deviation. You traded up from that SFP and we're done for the day. That's nice. Like, you got to be happy still getting this, and this is quite hard to catch, right? Like, relentless move. So normally what we're looking for in here, so we'd hear that high SD 4.5 from the previous day's manipulation. We'd hear SD4 from the quarter four manipulation here. It's a great point, great spot to be looking for reversals to happen. And what we normally want to see on a 5-minute chart for this manipulation swing is we want bissies in there, which we don't have any bissies on the 5-minute here. So normally if there's a bissie within this swing that takes the high, I will take an early entry with stop above, and then I'll look for entries once we break here. So we can, once we have this swing and we get this first candle too, we can mark out the zone. We can mark out the preempted standard deviations before the break. The other option to enter will be here at the 50% of that zone and stop above the high. So normally only try and get the early entries just on one account. The other thing to do would be then to break it down into the 3-minute, and we can look for an IBC, which we still don't have, a very wicky, and 1 minute. So 1 minute we have an additional manipulation swing here. We come back and IBC in here. If we mark out that swing here, we can get that break and then try and enter here and use this as a zone within the 5-minute zone. Still would only do that on one account as we're preempting the 5-minute break. Five-minute close didn't come in till here. So then 5-minute model, we would be waiting for a retest of that zone. and trades would look like this. Yeah, relentless sell-off with not many ways to get in if you didn't get an entry at the high zone. One big leg straight to 4.5 and PDL. Yeah, even 3 minute was a rough. What else? Like our TDO rejection here, which just helps cement the idea, right? It's why we have TDO on our chart, because if we're bearish, we're looking for manipulation on the opposing side. So we get that manipulation swing above true day open and then expansion away. Yeah, huge relentless leg and hard to get in without retracements like we normally see. Then we go into an SPS here, about 1, 2, 3, sweep the high, continue down to hit 3 there. Same again here into the PM. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, back to the low. And quarter 4, like most days, just consolidation at the end of the day. All right, any questions on this before we jump into our chart setup for the new day? All right, let's get into it. So we'll just change to a different chart. We'll get rid of our daily PO3 and out of the replay mode. So if you're on your chart or your desktop, I'd like you guys to follow along with this setup. I'm going to switch on my ICT kill zones and pivots indicator. This is going to give me the previous session levels, PDL and PDH, and then I'm going to draw them on manually. So at the start of every day, I want to know where PDH is, and I'm going to draw that out to 1800. We're then going to label that PDH. You can then save the label as a template. Only once I removed the indicator though, right? Okay, so PDH. Next step, we want PDL. Out to 1800. PDL. This becomes our daily range. We're then going to draw on an OTE level. We want to know where discount is in the daily range and where premium is. OTE levels we're using 0.5, 79, 705, and 62. On an ideal day, when we're trending from Asia, we will see price rotate, come back up to a pity array within the OTE area, into London or New York AM, and then come back the other way to take the low. This is why we always put on our OTE area. Next step, we're going to do our fixed range volume profile POC. I want to know where the volume comes in from the previous day, from PDH to PDL. So we're going to do this over here, fixed range volume profile. And we're going to use this swing here, the most recent swing that made PDH and PDL. We can see this line here is the POC. POC means point of control. That's where the max volume came in. So we're trying to find out where the institutional order flow is by doing this. Yes. I'm then going to draw that POC on as a line. And I'm going to label it FRVP POC. This becomes a PD array within our daily range. And a magnet. So ideally, we keep pushing up and we hit that. As part of Asia. My desk is alerting me to get moving. Okay. Next thing I want to do is mark out the previous day zone. So we have one here at the high. And I'm going to do the standard deviation of that zone. The reason we do this is because if we've opened up and we're only up here, then ideally we can still stay within the standard deviation pool from this manipulation for the rest of the day and look for price to continue down to each additional standard deviation. This happens a lot with Asia if this is an NYPM manipulation, and we'll come back down, and we normally will then reach the expansion, come back, and then push up to wherever the previous session high is. Do not use volume area high or volume area low. I just want to know where the POC is. And you know, once I start putting VH and VLs on different swings on my chart, it gets too messy. All right, so next we're going to put on our previous session high and low. So we've got our New York PM high here, which started at 1330. Put the high in straight away. NYPM high. NYPM low was PDL, so we're going to add that to the PDL description. Plus PDL. So we now have a previous session range. We've swept PDL, we've swept PM low. Ideally, we'll continue up and take the PM high before continuation down for a Friday low of the week. So by doing the chart setup like this, we're creating foundations for where we want to see price draw to. As we now have our Q1 manipulation, we're going to put that on, and that will stay as our floor until we start getting closes below 50% of that manipulation zone. We also want to look for other PD arrays around those OTE areas, which normally we have manipulation swings up here, sometimes into quarter 3 of the PM, and then push down, and we will put that on as a zone. So we're just going to scroll up in time frames. We'll go to the 1 hour, and we'll put the 1 hour CB in here. We'll label it. Capitals. And we also have on the 5-minute up close swing here. I'm going to draw that onto the high of that down close candle. Comes in just above equilibrium there at 0.5. The reason for this, so any up close candles that price is pushed away from stay unmitigated. So if there's longs trapped in there, a lot of the time you'll see price come back to them And we can see we've got a peak here in the volume. We'll see price come back, and then it mitigates the longs. It removes them, which then creates expansion in the opposing direction. So we've got one there. I'm going to draw this next one on here as well. You can see that's what happened with this swing, and part of that SBS, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We come back to 50% of that. Remove longs that are in here, mitigates them, and then comes down with strength. I'll turn off our zones and pivots now to make this a bit cleaner. So I also have, this is the 200 SMA. And try and use the 200 SMA for following trend and being on the right side. So, as we're pushing up above, we want to stay with longs and using the long manipulation areas. And then as we break, we want to start looking for shorts. And that can also be used as a draw or a price to look for reversals alongside our manipulation zones. Next, we're going to do our vertical lines over here, and we're going to put them on at each 4-hour interval. So we have 1800, 2200, 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 1400, and end of day. The reason for this is I'm using the 4-hour levels aligned with the 5-minute to look for the manipulations within the 4-hour candle. So we've had our 1800 open, we've gone open low, and now ideally we're looking for a high close. We're trying to work out where the wick is. We've got our change in state delivery, gotten long in here, and I'm trying to ride the expansion of the 4-hour candle. If we're going to continue up today to New York PM high, we can do the same from 2200. We look for an open low. Ideally, the low comes back into a swing that created a breakout. Gives us something to have our stop below. Or we wait for another break and we enter here with our stop below the low. And we try and catch the expansion of the next H4. We then go into London. And London, we're either going to come up, sweep the PM high, and then give us a change of state of delivery into a 330 move. So for this H4, we don't normally see a high or low in that first 15 minutes. A lot of the time we'll see it in the middle of it at 330. Just like when we're doing the next one, we see 930 swings, right? So we see 930, 945 swing. We break structure. And then the 10 o'clock H4, you'll normally see an open high, low close. So by setting our daily chart up like this, we are looking for areas of interest. If we do our standard deviation pull now from that current zone, we're looking for areas of interest that line up with the standard deviations, daily range OTEs, unmitigated order blocks, and they become our POIs if we're looking for reversals later in the day. All make sense, guys? Hit me up in the chat. So now that we have this zone here, we're going to have these marked out as we did at the start of the stream. The reason why we look at each 0.5 level is because SD 1.5 is where we tend to see reaccumulation. Chris, so you aren't expecting more down tomorrow? I am, yeah. So ideally we'll see a Friday low. But for price to move down, I want to see price move up first. So I don't want to short in here. I want to short up here. I want big expansion legs. I don't want little expansion legs. I want to catch the body of a big expansion candle. And if it does just come back here, invalidate this zone, and we flip the zone, then I can just call it a day, because I don't want to be shorting here when I don't have information to the left. You know, if I had information to the left, then I can align the short with each level for the way down. So 50% retracement of today's move. That would be ideal, Chris. Yep. Sometimes on Fridays and Mondays, you only see price come to 0.25 here. So this pop's going to be interesting to watch. And NYPM high. So my ideal short scenario would be previous session sweep. So current session is NYPM high. We come up here. Ideally into London, right? So say we get Asia takes out NYPM high. We then hit the 2 o'clock H4. Comes up into 3:30. We take Asia high. And then we get a change of state of delivery. Then we can do a standard deviation pull from that manipulation swing there. And we then have 2 session high sweeps, change of state of delivery, displacement. We have a zone, we have measurements. And we have a lot of room for price to move down. Yeah, statistical high of the day between 3 and 4 o'clock. And if that fails, and it does something like this, then the next high of day statistic is 9:30 to 10:30. And we can look for those shorts here. Ideally, we get it into London, would be nice, which suits my trading times. So does that help with everyone that's trying to understand what's on my daily charts and what I'm looking for each day? I'm in Australia, Chris. Yeah. So right now for me it's 11:35. And since we just had daylight savings and New York had daylight savings and it pushes us 2 hours apart. So previously I was able to stay up to New York AM. And I'd be happy to stay up to sort of 1:30 a.m. in the morning for that. But now it's, you know, that's starting around 1:30 a.m. 8:30 New York time is midnight my time. Yeah. No, 11:35 for me now, a.m. Yeah, especially lately. It's been, Asia and London's been nice. when you go from doing Asia and London, like month on month, and then when we get daylight savings change, and I go into New York and you see it move so fast, it's crazy in comparison. Like even getting the longs here, right, it gives us heaps of time. Whereas if this was New York, it'd be like this. You know, give you minutes to get in, or seconds to get in. At late times, so weird. Yeah. Down at the south end in the cold area of Australia. I'd like to move to Perth. Perth will give me another 6 hours closer to New York. All right, any other questions on the daily chart setup? You guys going to start doing it the same now? I've also got I've got a YouTube recording of me setting up the daily chart, and I'll have this this recording I'll save as well and put into my YouTube channel. Yes, this is being recorded. Also have the steps written in text in my mentorship. So your eyes are on this POC here for the next draw, and SD 1.5 for first TP. No, my recordings are available for everybody, free of charge. Need to watch at least 15, yeah. They're great, and like I put a lot of work and a lot of explanation into the 2 masterclass videos. So if you guys watch them heaps of times, you will pick up a lot of stuff. And we talk about the swing failure patterns, we talk about SFPs, go over everything in there. They're really good videos. Definitely check them out. I want to do, as we go into next year, on YouTube and the masterclasses I've put into the mentorship channel. Yeah. Next year I want to try and do some more shorter videos as well, so you guys don't get stuck trying to watch 1 hour long vids all the time. Yeah, if you can watch ICT, you can watch me. I know. Like I reckon I've done about 10,000 hours of of ICT, and like I've combined him with some other strategies and other studies that I've done, and I want to be able to deliver it a lot easier and more understandable with daily setup process for everybody. That's my goal. And these and using the manipulations and standard deviations just work so well and are repeatable every day, as you guys see me do. I'll just put it in the chat in a sec. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hope you got a lot out of this one. You can let me know in the main chat if you want me to do more of this stuff and slow down a little bit and talk about each zone and an area I put on my chart. And yeah, it's been fun. We'll see you in the next one.